Thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate
Oh
it.
man, it's likewise. I'm really like, yeah, I'm just so excited for people in the States to finally see it. So it's taken time to get it this far, but now we're here. So
Absolutely. It's one that's been on my radar for quite a long time, so I'm really happy that I was able to see it.
yeah, what'd you think?
Um, let's dive into it though.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly enthralling film, tackles so many different topics in a genuine, raw way that I think really connects with audiences. Why was this an important story for you and Riz Ahmed to tell?
Yeah, man. So, we started actually working on this for like a few years. He saw my film, my documentary that I did called These Birds Walk, which came out in 2013. I did that with my dear friend Umar Malik, and Umar became friends with Riz, and he was like, "You need to meet Riz. You and him have a very similar energy." And I think it's true. Like we're very similar in a lot of ways, and I think we just started pining our insecurities and seeing what was going on in our life. And we were like, let's just start unmasking instead of trying to hide from things and trying to be like the new cool kids or whatever. It's like, we've got a lot of baggage. We've got a lot of things that we need to deal with. So he kept on telling me, come out to London, let's go see it. So I was like, all right, fine. So Cinereach gave me some money to go do some research. So I went out to London and I started to see something that was really vibrant and urgent, that felt very close to me, even though I'm not from London. I mean, I'm a New York, Houston kid. Like that's Queens and Houston, right? That's what I know. So I was like, wait, how am I connecting to this? Why do I feel so connected? So I started spending some time there trying to do some research, and that's how we started building the story. But it's very, like, it's deeply personal for both of us. I think it's interesting how it's marketed as a true fiction, which I think is, quite, I think, correct. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the film, Riz's character Zed, his journey is not an easy one, and you balance a lot of different topics within the film, a lot of different challenges that he goes through. And one thing that I thought was really great was it's definitely reflective of the challenges and curveballs of life that anyone faces,
Yeah.
obviously specifics aside. But it certainly resonated with me. Was that an intent of the film? And what do you hope audiences take from this?
Yeah, man. Here's what's so great about films, right? Like I feel like, coming from like, like the documentary space or like I mean I guess like to compare this to I think like sort of the conceptual art space or the what is it, like the museum space, right? Where
Yeah.
sometimes you go into things and you don't have points of reference, right? Like for me, it's like what I love about cinema is the ability that I don't need to know fucking anything, and I have to sit in this chair and I have to give you the rules, right? And like I need to know the rules and understand what this world is that I'm about to go into, and then it needs to be like I guess the basis of it. What I'm trying to say is it's accessible, right? Like that's what I love about cinema is that it assumes that this medium is accessible, or perhaps it's giving you the language right away at the start of like these are the rules. Do you want to sit through this or not? And if it's not for you, great. Then like all right, cool. Like this, move on. But here are the rules. This is what it is, and this is what it's about. So for me, it's like I see cinema really as like a way to expand hearts. Like that's the way I've always seen it. Like for me, the best films are those that really expand the heart. And I've always seen this film as like Riz was like, what are we trying to do here? I'm like, man, it's simple. It's a paper cut to the heart. If that's what we can do, if it can just be like a paper cut that people don't see coming, that's the success of this because it's got to be unassuming. It's got to be small. Even the way we filmed it, like everything about it, like I didn't care for scope. I didn't care for this or that. It was just like what's personal, what's close, what feels real, and to the detriment sometimes of even like design, right? Like it was like let's just be very like let's be as pedestrian as we can sometimes, just to get it very honest and real.
A paper cut to the heart is certainly that's the first time I've ever heard that said,
Oh,
but
great.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, because it's gentle. I don't think that the film, like Annika Summerson, who was our DP, is an incredible woman who put who lends the film and saw the film in a very like Annika way, and I love that, right? Like what is the male, like it's we're all men here, and then she comes in as with this very strong female gaze, and I think that there is a sensuality with how she's in intimacy in intimacy that she's brought, which I'm so happy and honored that we were able to have her.
Yeah, that's great. So jumping from documentary to feature film, I have to imagine that this wasn't as large of a leap as some would make because it's such a deeply personal film to both you and Riz. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I think the difference between documentary, Ian Olds, who's like a dear friend, and at one point was like a mentor of mine. He once said something when he made his jump from a documentary to fiction. He said that like documentary is more of an externalized process where you're observing the world and you're taking it in, whereas fiction I think is more internalized and you're really being more introspective and you're trying to center yourself. And I think you both, so I think that's true in a lot more ways. I think because every sense of everything that goes on in fiction is very much, in our hands. Where even though it isn't right, like it isn't, but you could technically, literally control everything if you wanted. So I think bringing that documentary experience of like I'm just gonna kind of throw things and see, and then not have answers and just kind of like I think that probably frustrated people sometimes because they sometimes didn't know better. But I think not knowing was also very helpful. And also, man, like something to say is like when you were like a person of color that's like a working class kid, I had no access to film. You know what I mean? Like the idea of even making a fiction film was so out of my idea. Like how the like I want to tell stories about brown people. Like who's gonna be the actor? And then, well, Riz could act. Riz is becoming a big actor now. He would want to work with me, but then, Riz was like, no, no, let's do this. So that was kind of, it was really like, I don't know, it really meant a lot to me that he was like, let's do this together. Let's figure this out. Because I think we both had this frustration and this desire to really tell something that was deeply connected to both of us. Because, we couldn't have made this film without each other. And that's how I feel all my work. Like even now as I'm dipping into Blade now, it's like, it's I can't do this film without Mahershala. I can't do this film without Stacy. We all have to do it together. So
Yeah.
that's the idea.
Absolutely. And that's something that I think comes across and is really refreshing in this film, just the entire approach. And it's I don't want to say that it's not like a clean fiction film. It is raw, it is genuine, it is emotional. And you're along for every step of Zed's way in this. But you mentioned Riz, and aside from breaking the story and all of that, and kind of crafting the background of Mogul Mowgli, can you talk about his performance in the film? Because the film, it really hinges on his performance, and
Oh
he
my
carries
god.
most of it.
My god. Yeah, he does, doesn't he? It's just wild. And honestly, I wasn't really like I think we both underestimated each other in some ways. I think maybe he overestimated my abilities, but I underestimated his talent. But I always knew he had it in him. So for me, it was I have to unleash him.
Yeah.
So we were like, in some ways, we were literally rehearsing for 2 years before. Like I went to his shows. I even filmed some of his shows, and and he's a very like he listens so carefully. Like he's just I haven't like yeah he's like somebody once said that like at any room that you're with Riz is always the smartest person in the room. And then there was a feeling of like, well, that's not true because I want to be the smartest person in the room. But it's like, no, actually, you know what? This is something that you have to say. Like they say this about people like Ryan Reynolds or Bradley Cooper. It's like, the thing about Riz is he's actually a lyricist that happens to also be a really phenomenal actor. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to champion his lyrics and his words. So I think when he finally had a moment to do that, he was fucking unleashed. And I was like, just go further, go further. And I think we were egging each other on in just a very helpful way of just keep pushing it, and yeah, being present with each other.
Yeah, that's incredible. One of the characters in the film, and I'm wondering, what the influence for this was, and if it came from Riz's background. But RPG, he's very much like a threatening nemesis to Zed, and also kind of represents like a mirror image to him in a way, and
Yeah, yeah.
looking into himself. What was the inspiration behind him?
Oh man, so many things. The fact that Naban Rizwan is like literally the new young amazing actor and he's also like a rapper is like hilarious and really cool. Like and I think he's fucking amazing. So I think there's always this feeling, man, that we have there's like there can only be one of us. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And me like being right now like the hot brown filmmaker, I already wonder like who's coming up from my head. You know what I mean? And so I thought that was a very real thing. Like who's coming after Riz's head now? Who's going to be the next hot brown guy, right? So, and that kind of the thought that but what's so great with Napan is that we sat there. I printed out a face, his headshot, and I'm like, all right, what do you look like? Who the fuck are you? So we came up, like I had another name for the character, another backstory, but we built it together. And that's like what I did with all of the actors. Like we sat together, we spent time together, we had lunch, we had coffees, we spoke, we like shared our insecurities and and we were just honest with each other. But Napan, like, I put him in a studio with our music supervisor, with Abdullah Al Wali, and I was like, all right, man, like go record some crazy shit. So then he came out with, two really brilliant tracks. Like, one is an anthem to the the corner chicken shops that are owned by, Asian people. Well, they're considered Asian over there, right? Like, but
Sure.
Pakistani Indians, they own chicken shops, right? So that song's Pussy Fried Chicken, which became sort of which is something that, like, we hope to release a music video of soon. So,
That's awesome. That's very cool. I know we're getting our 2-minute warning here, but before we go, I have to ask you about, you mentioned it already, your next steps here. I mean, we've seen the documentary shorts, we've seen your documentary in 2013, now Mogul Mowgli. Anything you can tell us about Blade and sort of the pre-production there?
Here's the thing, right? I think Marvel has snipers like
Right. Expected.
everywhere. Like, I think I'm looking out the window and I'm pretty sure there's like security standing around here somewhere. But here's what I'll say: there's nothing. I'm just so honored to be working with Stacey Osei Kaffour, who is this incredible writer. She was part of Watchmen, Pen 15, nominated for an Emmy for Pen 15. She's just a phenomenal person that I'm so honored to be working with, and of course with Mahershala Ali. So just like, if you do mention it, just please mention their names, because
100%.
I'm working in their service. That's how I see it. So thank you.
Well, and let me ask you this too to wrap up. With this big budget film, stepping into that realm, do you think your approach is going to be different compared to Mogul Mowgli and anything that's come before? Do you find yourself approaching it differently?
Actually, I'm not. I think if anything, I need to be more vulnerable. I think something that I've learned about this whole process. What's your name again? I'm so sorry. Just as guy at the movies.
No worries, Joe.
Joe. Okay, Joe. Something that Joe, I realized, man, is anytime I try to act smarter than I am, I fuck up. So I'm not doing that. Like, just admit that I don't know, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Like, right now I'm learning, like, how to fight. I'm learning these things. Like, I'm afraid to say what fighting system I'm gonna learn, because that might reveal something. But it's like, but it's important, right? Like, how to hold a sword, all these things. Like, I'm just learning because this is all new. And what's so amazing about people like Kevin Feige is they're all about, like, cool, let's take these risks, let's bring them on. And I spoke to Chloe about it as well. And I'm just honored that I have this family of other Marvel directors that have made this leap similar to me. So they've been very supportive as well.
That's awesome to hear. And Bassam, honestly, just spending 15 minutes with you this morning, you're such a cool dude. And just hearing about your experiences on Mogul Mowgli and your excitement for what's to come, I'm even more pumped to see what comes down the road. So,
Joe, that means so much. And I'm so sorry for being late. I had to go get myself a drink of protein shakes.
No worries. I appreciate you taking the time, and good luck with the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Good luck with everything as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.